Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Death by Pony. Today we're hopping back into our life. So without further ado, let's hop in. How exciting, you get to see the show up close. Baxter drove into the heart of the city, passing by the twinkling lights of the urban night until he pulled into a public parking lot. He switched his phone's map app to walking mode. It's an 8-minute stroll from here. You shrugged, not needing to point out that walking tends to be your main form of transportation anyway. Both of you exited the car, and Baxter made a note of where exactly he was leaving it. Luckily, the lot was well lit and located in a busy area. It'd be hard to miss. He led you across the road and then followed the sidewalk until his phone proclaimed that you had reached the correct building. Baxter got the door for you. Thanks. Of course. Inside, he switched his phone off the map, but continued tapping away at it. Now, where is it? He huffed as he scrolled the screen. You could immediately tell when he found what he was looking for from his reaction. He finally relaxed into his normal state of friendly nonchalance. Curiously, you poked your head closer to read what it was. It made sense when you saw it. It was digital confirmation of the purchase tickets. In front of you was a small line where a man would check the tickets before waving people onward. Baxter slipped into the back, and you waited until it'd be needed. I'm glad we arrived on time. Missing the show was likely the only chance of this evening going awry. We'd make it work even if we were late. The other guests in line were dressed to the nines. Some were even in vintage clothing. Baxter's previous advice was correct. The wait wasn't long. After chatting with Baxter for a moment, it was his turn to show his digital tickets. The usher was young, probably only a few years older than you. The bags around his eyes spoke to the fact that this was nowhere near the start of his day. These are for you and your friend, right? You nodded and took a step next to Baxter, making it clear that you were here together. Cool. Thanks for coming. We are thankful for you having us. Baxter shoved his phone into his pocket for good. Once he got approval, he inspected the two of you and tilted his head to the side. Here's some ground rules before you enter the show. Everyone gets them. He began to explain the guidelines. The succinct list that he'd obviously said 100 times before. For the most part, the rules wanted you to act polite. As a polite human being, you could do that. Lastly, if you want to actually partake in the show, you can take one of these necklaces. He pointed at a box full of glowing jewel necklaces. Each was gaudy enough that anybody wearing one would be noticeable in the crowd. Wearing one of these beauties means that you are part of the same world as the actors are. No necklace, no participation. The actors will treat you like an invisible audience member. You can still speak out if you're suddenly inspired, but nobody's going to put focus on you directly. So any takers?
My pleasure.
It would be my pleasure. Baxter volunteered immediately, and the usher fished a necklace from the box. I'd like one too. The usher pulled out a second necklace and handed them out with an encouraging smile. Enjoy the show. You were waved off and allowed to enter the showroom past the heavy double doors. Ooh, look at this place. It's kind of like it is a bar. It is a bar, but it's very... Okay, so like when you learn about prohibition in school, and they're always like, yeah, and then they had these speakeasies, and then they show you like some pictures from them. That's what this reminds me of, the speakeasies. The showroom was a sight to behold. From the floor to ceiling, it was lit up, yet none of that was bright enough to be blinding. The bar was full of expensive bottles and gilded engravings. The back had a pit for musicians large enough for a full band to play. The instruments were already set up. You were taken to the bar and seated at 2 empty stools at the end. The booths along the wall were already filled with groups of other guests, laughing and clinking glasses. They had a full house. This was a popular event, maybe a bigger deal than what Baxter had presented it as. The ages varied. Some of the crowd made up fresh-faced 20-somethings, while others were silver-haired elders. You may have been the youngest in the room. And almost everyone was dressed up. Sequin dresses, fitted suits, expensive jewelry as far as the eye could see. No broad generalization to be made about the kind of people who would watch a show at a jazz club, other than most of them knew how to dress. A few exceptions in casual clothes stuck out between all the elaborate, co-fitted looks. At least you weren't the only sore thumb of the bunch. The second usher bowed and left you alone, just for the bartender to be out of nowhere, picking it right up where they left off. He passed each of you a drink, menu smooth in practice. Nice to see you tonight. Just let me know when you're ready to order. Of course. The bartender inclined his head cordially, then busied himself polishing a glass with a white cloth. The jazz bar took the immersion seriously. Even the guy serving drinks had the proper aesthetic for the world this show took place in. He wore subtle eyeliner, and there was something about how he carried himself that made him seem like he wandered off a movie set, especially with highly coordinated, shabby clothes for a uniform. He shared a look with Baxter before examining the menu. From first glance, it was impressive. It totally held 5 pages of drinks, each with detailed description of some even having had photos. You turned to the last section entirely for non-alcoholic drinks. You read the blurbs, enjoying both descriptiveness and the sense of humor. A few minutes later, a waiter, full suit, turned up. His tie was mute and maroon, and the only thing separating him from his clients was a pad for taking orders. You wondered why he approached you rather than leaving you to the bartender. Maybe because it was so busy. Welcome to our show. Can I get you anything, or do you need some more time? Baxter leaned forward in his chair, no hesitation. I would like a baby Bellini, please. Baxter passed the menu back, and the waiter took it with polite nod and then turned to you. You glanced at your options with final read-through and then said you would like sparkling water, elderflower cordial, fruit-only martini, tropical fizz, Shirley Temple cherry soda, whiskey and sour mocktail, virgin pina colada, Arnold Palmer, Virgin Mary, citrus sunshine mocktail, baby Bellini 2, zero proof margarita, just water, nothing at all. If I wasn't allergic to tomatoes, would drink Bloody Marys all the fucking time. You handed your menu over and the waiter put it with Baxter's, and he inclined his head politely one more time. Thank you, esteemed guest. I'll return shortly. The waiter sauntered off and vanished through a side door away from the bar. Baxter's fingertips tapped the counter rhythmically. The soft sound faded into dim around you. He met your inquisitive glance with confidence. I knew what I wanted as soon as I saw the name. I firmly appreciate a sparkling drink as well as peaches. With a wicked smirk, his voice lowered to a husky rumble. I would prefer it without the baby, however. Same here. Baxter, you shouldn't say that. Why am I not surprised? You snake your eyes, you roll your eyes. Same here. Always nice to meet somebody with good taste. In the distance, the musicians filtered onto the stage from backstage. The sound of tuning strings took over the soundscape as they prepared for the big event.
Exciting.
The action approaches. There were still a few minutes before though he thought the production was scheduled to start. There was full of anticipation, but still relaxed. The two of you chatted over your respective jazz music experience until the waiter arrived with the drinks. The waiter carried over a silver platter with stiff formality. He passed out the glasses, not even leaving fingerprints due to his white gloves. Curiously, neither drink had been filled at the bar you were sitting at. He placed your Virgin Mary on the counter in front of you before setting down Baxter's baby Bellini. Thanks. Thank you very so much. Gently, Baxter lifted his drinks to his lips and sipped at the fruity beverage. He appeared as the very picture of sophistication, with his stem glass in hand and a distant, unreachable gaze. Sitting there with him, everything suddenly hit you. His formal clothes, his fancy drink, the glamorous setting, and his dazzling smile came together. He had pulled out all the stops for this adventure. It felt like whiplash compared to what happened with the far simpler, much more normal cafe trip. He had to be intentional. You were certain that this sparkling glitz was his goal. He practically said it out loud with his original invitation. You were never going to underestimate him when he got an opportunity to prepare. You picked up your own drink and sampled the refreshment. It was delicious and had pleasant consistency. After a flicker of the lights and electric moment, silence, you heard the sound of a keyboard. The crowd hushed, waiting on bated breath, and the rest of the band kicked in. A saxophone cut into the song before, being backed by a chorus of trumpets. A bass player strummed along while the drummer kept the time. Everyone around you straightened out on the lookout for something. Nobody was sure what, but they'd know when they saw it. Double doors at the front opened and all eyes were on Paris as they entered. Lear strode in with heels clicking against the glowing walkway. Her form-fitting evening gown sparkled in dazzling lights. She strutted to the center of the room, a grimace on her painted red lips. Behind her, another actor casually followed. They easily could have been passed over, especially with many of the guests around them dressed more formally. This character was plain in appearance, especially compared to the glitter. On the other, they took quicker steps and reached out. Ooh! We don't normally get a lot of these, but look at the detailing on these bracelets. Both of the characters came to an abrupt stop at the center of the room. The glamorous one spoke loudly, letting her words carry over the band. My darling friend, you know I don't have time for this. I have to prepare for the show and must rest my voice. How else will I manage to sing? The singer sidestepped away from her friend, greeting the space between them. I do not want to discuss this. The friend shrunk away, but refused to back down. There was a fight in the way they stood. The singer sighed. She crossed her arms, the frustration towards the topic, making her next words bitter. It's more than enough that my parents and his parents keep bothering me. You don't need to add to that number, my dear. I can't leave it alone, not when you're making such a mistake. The singer put a hand up to dismiss her friend. Her movements were as sharp as her stilettos. I repeat, I do not have time for this. I'm going to my dressing room. She swept across the room and glanced your direction before quickly looking away. She exited through the door near the band. You were struck by her last expression. What that sorrow? Was that sorrow? Longing? Either way, you had gathered the situation. The two were acquainted, and the diva was performer at the venue. Her friend wasn't. They had come to offer unwanted, but likely needed assistance. The music slowed down, suddenly somber, after the frantic energy of the singer's outburst. Her friend hadn't moved. They hugged their arms around themselves and slumped in defeat. You were so focused on them that when a voice came right from behind you, you almost fell out of your stool. It's like talking to a brick wall, isn't it? You craned your head over the bartender. He was the same man who had passed you the drink menu. He was still working at polishing a glass. He was part of the bit all along. That probably wasn't even a real bar. Yet again, their commitment to realism surprised you. The friend took a deep breath before rushing over to the counter. Now that they were closer, you could tell their clenched hands were shaky. They were directed a scowl at the bartender in full force. You need to talk to her. Unlike when they had spoken to the singer, these words were bitten out. They weren't as close to the bartender and not willing to allow him the same niceties afforded to their friend. The bartender scoffed in their face. He wasn't any fonder of them, but he was trying to retain an ounce of professionalism and decorum. Why would I? I've got no attachment to that lady. None of the crowd was buying it. You heard the unconvinced snort throughout the room. And she acted like I wasn't even here. Besides, she wants the stage, and that's it. All I'm good for is watching her, same as everyone else in the world. He gripped the glass tightly. You could faintly hear the polishing cloth squeak against it. She's not interested in my words, just as she told you. There's no time for that. The friend objected harshly, pointing a finger into the bartender's face. They were letting him get away with such a falsehood. She can't admit it because you won't admit it. You're making me laugh, kid. The only folks who want us together are you and our parents. He shooed the friend away by flitting his hand through the air. He had the audience captivated by half of them flinching from the gesture. I'm working. Don't block the bar. The friend tossed their hat at him before they sulked away. They waved at both of the necklace-wearing guests and slid into the edge of the cushion. They rolled their eyes and their entire head along with it, intentionally exaggerating. Their new table-mates snickered. I don't know how to put up with either of them. You were starting to get the feeling for the show. All the actors' behaviors were turned up to 11 for the sake of comedy. And the heart of the story was clear. The venue singer and its bartender were in love, but wouldn't admit it due to the outside pressure and fear that others didn't feel the same. A clattering sound brought your attention back to the bartender, who put the glass he'd been polishing away. With his hands free, he idly glanced around for his next task, settled on you and Baxter. His gaze dropped to your necks and gave you a professional smile. You were both in the story world. Can I get either of you anything? Refills, new drinks, on the house. Consider an apology for all the ruckus. He leaned over the counter and nodded pointedly at the friend. They blocked their face with a hand and sunk into the booth, trying to escape the stare. One of the guests at the table happened to have a paper fan and held it out to them. They gratefully took it and hid behind it instead. The bartender shook his head, but at Baxter, meanwhile, grinned.
Gladly.
That would be delightful. I could use another baby Bellini. Of course, sir. Even while the picture of poise and polite manners, Baxter gave the air of being quite smug over the formal address. The bartender shifted closer. You could now smell the spice cologne. And you? Could I get another round of this? Or maybe not. You picked up your glass and swirled the drink around. Not wanting to hold up the show for long, you asked the bartender for Shirley Temple. Got it. The bartender looked around the shelves of the fake bar, but scratched his head. Oh darn, I'm missing something. I'm always telling the owner he needs to keep this place better stocked. He grumbled a little more earnest complaints. Not one to give up, he thought about his options. The crowd tittered with the amusement as the friend peeked out with flushed cheeks from the other side of the room. If I'm right, there's some in the back. I'll return with your drink soon. Of course, there's no need to hurry. I appreciate it. Baxter lifted his existing baby Bellini with the drama as supervillain. You wondered if he was being unaware or trying to put on a good show. The bartender threw his cleaning cloth over his shoulder and briskly abandoned his station. He disappeared through a curtain door beside the bar. You guessed that the real drink station was through there. You noticed the actual waiter bounced from table to table fulfilling orders even during the performance. It made sense to keep the supplies somewhere offstage so that the bar could keep putting out drinks no matter what's happening with the story. Without the bartender, you and Baxter had to reorientate yourselves as to where the action went. Most of the crowd's eyes were away from the tables. The friend character had scrambled out of the booth, paced along the length of the room. There was still trouble and stopped just short of biting their nails. Just as they clasped their hands together, the singer made her reappearance. Music swelled as she sashayed out of the dressing room, and once more taking the center of attention. Her presence spellbound the crowd, instantly taking the focus. Ah! The friends cautiously crept over to her, stepping around the tables between them. Feeling refreshed? Of course, darling, I'm a professional. Speaking of professionalism, why didn't you say hi to the bartender earlier? He is here, you know. The singer scoffed, echoing the exact same cadence as the bartender before. They were perfectly matched of stubbornness. He doesn't like me. He's made it very clear. He told his parents as much. He told my parents. She struck a defiant pose, sounding utterly disgusted. Who does that? What a cad. Her friends scratched the back of their head, and their face twisted comically as they chose their words with care. Didn't you tell his parents that you did not like him when they suggested it? I also recall when your parents accused you of being attached to him, you denied it vehemently with him in the room. The singer huffed and didn't deny the events. She and the bartender's relationship was messy. And isn't it true that you do like our illustrious bartender? If your foolish parents hadn't meddled, you would be all over each other by now. Ha! The singer let out a deliberate, prideful laugh. It was dark and barely concealing a very real hurt. Don't even pretend. He doesn't care for me. I don't care for him. She cast her gaze over the pocket of attendees gathering around her and spread her arms wide. I bet everyone in the room heard him bad-mouthing me as soon as I left, didn't you? He said you were like a brick wall. He said he didn't like you. He said he doesn't think you like him. You're not along with her assessment. You shook your head, trying to show she was wrong. You quietly watched. Ah! She snapped her finger and pointed at you. The weight of the room's stares landed on your face. Good, because that's exactly right. The crowd laughed at that, and she played them into a boisterous chatter. When the room finally settled and the singer had passed along a few more barbs about the bartender, the friend slung an arm around her. Can't you please hear me out? The singer groaned and shrugged out of her friend's embrace. She backed out with a frown. I need a drink. She spun to face the bar before thinking better of it. Apparently she didn't need a drink that badly. Not here, of course. I have standards. The sole of her shoes tapped on the floor. She needed action to detail with all of the restless energy. I believe this counts as an emergency. Please hold. I need to fetch my crisis bottle from my purse. She struck her nose high in the air and swanned off to her dressing room once more. Her friend stood alone in the center of the room. The decrescendo of the music made the room quiet. In the distance, a door slammed. The diva reaching her room, she abandoned friend visibly winced at the anger of the noise. They closed their eyes and mentally counted to 10. Slowly, their stance unwound, and they forced themselves to relax. They glanced furtively to the left and then to the right. Okay, the last actor left spoke to the entire room, projecting their voice loudly. While they're gone, does anybody have any ideas to get those two to admit their actual feelings? It has been weeks of me putting up with their arguments. I'm sorry to say, friend, but I'm plumb out of ideas. People began to shout things out or whisper among groups. The friend listened attentively as if one suggestion might hold the key to their very survival. Not all of the ideas were positive or even workable plans. Just give up. I'm too stubborn for that. They aren't getting out of this that easily. Lock them in the back room together until they confess. Tried that last week. My friend knows how to pick the lock. Trying to make the bartender jealous. Set her up with someone else. I'll do it. What? Wait, the friend spied a vase full of flowers on the table near the back. They scrambled to collect them in a bouquet. These should work. The flowers can be given to our singer in celebration to her performance. If she thinks they're from the bartender, maybe. The new electric smile on their face contrasted their previous expression for the moment, though they faltered. But I can't give these to her. She'll know immediately that they weren't from the bartender. Would anybody else be willing to help out? I know those two aren't giving the best impression, but when they aren't trying to prove each other wrong, they're very cute together. They searched through the crowd, brows furrowed. Please? We're gonna try. The friend noticed you're volunteering and brightened considerably. Someone else also started clapping. It was Baxter. Thank you. They bounded towards you and placed the bouquet in your hands. Their sincere gratitude caught you by surprise. You are a hero, I swear. Anyway, here's the plan. Although their tone was hushed as you'd be when sharing a secret, their pitch carried throughout the space. There was a talented actor, especially without any microphones to aid them. I'll go get her. You need to call her over and pretend the bartender got those flowers for her, but was too shy to hand them over to her directly. Okay, I'll say the bartender is a chicken. Got it. Maybe don't compare him to poultry. She'd keep insulting him. I can see her doing that. Don't worry. I'll get the mission done. You shook the flowers like ringing a victory bell. They snorted at your energy. Yes, I appreciate your enthusiasm. The friend gave a thumbs up and scampered off down to where the singer had left. Oh, drama. I love it. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to hit like. That way I know you're enjoying the videos, and remember to subscribe. That way YouTube brings you back here to see what's next, and I won't take up any more of your time. Have a good day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.